Week number 5 of the college football season already upon us. Hi, everyone. Al DeMarco here, General Manager of DeMarcoSports.com. I think you can probably figure that out by now. Just a quick reminder, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Yes, down there in that corner, because it's the easiest way to be notified of when I upload another video report. Do yourself a favor. It makes things so much easier since I don't do these every single day, as you are well aware of now. Also, just wanted to pass something on to you. I've opened up the comment section, so why not, since this is a community about gambling, it's just not my opinion, although my opinion is pretty damn good, I think, but why not also post what your best bet is going to be in a sentence or two of why you like it, so everybody else can know why you like a particular game too. I mean, after all, your opinion counts. I think it's kind of interesting because maybe a couple dozen of you have sent me messages about why you like a particular game, and when I have time I like to respond too. I just think it's kind of interesting to see what everybody else likes on a particular given card, because after all, you're not watching this unless you're gambling. That's the bottom line. And again, it is a community of gamblers. That's what this is all about. So everybody has opinions, and I used to put the polls up, but the polls are worthless here on YouTube because they're so damn hard to find. Oh, can I criticize YouTube? Oops, I just did. So this is just so much easier. So if you're interested, go ahead and leave your pick, and if I get a chance, I'll respond to it too. So anyway, this is going to be your Friday and Saturday video report because I'm going to go ahead and give you complimentary plays on both days. In terms of the complimentary plays, I'm kind of on a red-hot roll with them. Overall, going back to last season, I'm on a 78-52 roll with freebies. Last 3 weeks in college football, I've hit 9 out of 14. Last 2 weeks in the NFL, I've hit 7 out of 9 with a push along the way too. Those are just the free plays. Those free plays, of course, I always call them the best of the worst. For one reason or another, the plays that I handicapped on the card, they were slightly flawed. So I didn't end up using them as my premium play, my best bet, but they were still worthy, and I gave them out as a complimentary play. Now, in terms of my premium plays, my best bets, well, guys, I'm going for football winner number 10 out of 13 to start the weekend. That's college and pro combined. So, yeah, I'm kind of on a little bit of a roll. So let's start now with your Saturday complimentary plays, and then we'll work back to the Friday card. I can tell you, however, if you happen to be watching this video on Thursday, I've got a 10-dime play on the Packers and the Lions. It's 10-dime football winner number 11 out of 13 and number 6 in a row on that game. Matching Mondays on the Eagles, matching Saturdays on Washington State, Fridays on Wisconsin, last Thursdays on the 49ers, 2 Mondays ago on the Saints. Kind of hot with that play. But the big play, if you're watching this on Friday, is going to be the game between Utah and Oregon State. You may recall last Saturday, my best bet was taking Washington State as a 3-point home dog and watching them win outright by 3, a game in which they jumped out to the early lead and never looked back. Well, the game on Friday night, among all the college games, and I'm going to give you 2 complimentary plays for Friday, the game that I really love is Oregon State returning to Corvallis to host 4-0 Utah. Utah with that incredible defense that just shut down Chip Kelly and the UCLA Bruins last weekend. That is probably going to be my biggest play of the entire weekend. And it's either going to be another 20-dime play, and normally 15-dime play is my top play, which I've only had one this season, Syracuse in week number 2 with a blowout win, or an ultra-rare 30-dime play. That is a huge play for me. That's going to be on Friday. With that being said, let's get to your complimentary plays, and we'll start with Saturday. This is not a great Saturday card. I said that a couple of weeks ago. Last Saturday, it was an awesome Saturday card. This one, some interesting matchups, but I can't tell you there's any great games. The one that I want to talk about, however, is in the SEC. It's the Magnolia Bowl. A lot of you are going, my God, Al, it's not bowl season already. But listen, if you're in SEC country, you know all about the Magnolia Bowl. Coming from Pennsylvania, when I moved to Atlanta, I spent almost 10 years in Atlanta. I didn't know what the hell they were talking about either. But then I started my nationwide radio show and had it out of WCNN at the CNN Center in Atlanta. That was my flagship station. I was in like 28 of the top 40 markets in the nation, but heavily located in the South. Not only in Atlanta, but in Birmingham, in Montgomery, in Mobile, in Huntsville, in New Orleans, in Louisville, in Baton Rouge. You don't think I talked SEC football nonstop? You better believe. Oh, Macon too. Talked SEC football almost nonstop for a couple of years. Yeah, you learn to appreciate the SEC, and then you realize that Magnolia Bowl, well, that's when LSU takes on Ole Miss, the Magnolia Bowl. Both of these teams coming off big games though last week. Now LSU was hosting Arkansas. That, believe it or not, though, however, is a much bigger game than the Magnolia Bowl because those teams, because of their geographical location, it's a bigger rivalry. And it historically has been a very close game over the last 7 or 8 years, and it proved to be again last week as Arkansas jumped out to the early lead, really outplayed LSU for most of the game, but LSU rallied for the win behind Jaden Daniels, who had just another magnificent game, 20 for 29, 320 yards, 4 touchdowns, and LSU pulled off the win 34-31. So they've now reeled off 3 straight wins since that opening loss in Orlando to Florida State. The defense did not play well, though. 426 yards allowed, 25 first downs, and Arkansas had time of possession of almost a little over 34 minutes in that game. As a matter of fact, Arkansas ran 68 plays to LSU's 58 in the contest. But at least LSU won. Ole Miss, on the other hand, Lane Kiffin talks a good game, but he still can't beat Nick Saban. That's the bottom line. Ole Miss, after that 3-0 start, and let's face it, it was a weak 3-0 start, beating Georgia Tech and beating Tulane the prior 2 weeks. They go to Alabama, and Jay just no-showed. It just was another bad game for Ole Miss. This has been a one-sided series. LSU has won 6 of the last 7. Last year, Ole Miss was 7-0. They go into Baton Rouge, Saturday night game in Death Valley, where dreams go to die on Saturday nights. You've probably heard that. If you haven't, well, then you really don't know about the LSU lore. LSU won the game 45-20, and after that, Ole Miss just collapsed the rest of the season. It was just a miserable stretch drive for them. They went 1-4 after that loss. I think this game is severely underpriced. I get it. I understand because people were saying, oh, LSU's coming off the big game against Arkansas. Ole Miss is in a must-win situation. I say we take that to our advantage and go with LSU in this spot. So I like LSU. The other game I lean toward is Washington. You know, I gave you Washington last week. You saw how they destroyed California. But if you watch that game, you always have to be a little leery with Washington because once Michael Penix Jr. and most of the starters sat down, Cal in garbage time kind of made it interesting, although Washington did get the cover. Well, now Washington is 18. What did I tell you last week? Of course you remember, don't you? Sure, right. Like it's the most important thing on your mind today. I said to you last week that Washington was going to go to Arizona this week, and then they had a bye, and then they host Oregon. Very important. So they get this win. They improve to 5-0. Then they have a week off, which I think is key here. So they don't have the look-ahead factor. I think Washington takes care of business rather easily here in Tucson. Now, listen, they have won 6 in a row straight up in the series, right? They're on a 7-0-1 ATS roll going back to last year. Arizona's quarterback, your guess is as good as mine because in the 21-21 against Stanford last week, their starting quarterback, Jaden Delora, suffered an ankle sprain. Don't know as of Wednesday night as I'm updating this or doing this video whether or not he's going to be healthy or not to go. So I'm going to go with Washington. I know last year was a 49-39 win in Seattle for the Huskies, but this is a much better team. So I'm going to go and lay the points. Of the 2 plays, kind of like them equally. Lean a little toward LSU, but I think they're both strong. Hey, let me just remind you, you see at the bottom of the screen, 2-day free all-access pass. You want my best bet on Friday, one of my biggest plays in college the entire year. You want all the plays of all the other handicappers, either on Saturday or Sunday. The choice is yours. You get them for free if you've never done it before. The 2-day free all-access pass available now at DeMarcosports.com. Give you an idea, the all-access pass on Saturday and Sunday will be $109 each day. You can get them both for free if you've never taken advantage of it before. I've been doing it now for a little over 16 years, and the reason I do it is what better way to give you an opportunity to sample all the handicappers for free with no strings attached. The only way you lose is if you don't take advantage of it. So check it out. The 2-day the free all access pass. You think after 16 years I would know this by heart. It's free over at DeMarcosports.com. Let's talk about your Friday's games. Okay, as I told you, my big play is on the Utah-Oregon State game. But there's two other games that are very interesting here. The late game, one of the late games, is going to be BYU and Cincinnati. This game, the line has moved from BYU, a 1.5 point favorite, to BYU, a 2-point dog, as I update this video on Wednesday night. It shocks the hell out of me. I get it. I don't understand it, but I get it. But what has Cincinnati done? I mean, they start 2-0. They beat Pittsburgh, big deal, on the road. Then they come home. They lose to Miami of Ohio. And then they lose to Oklahoma. Okay, I grant you. Losing to Oklahoma, you were supposed to. BYU goes to Arkansas. Razorbacks gift wrap them a victory after jumping out 14-0, after jumping out 31-21 in the third quarter. Turnovers and penalties gift wrap BYU the win. Then BYU on the road again last week. They simply ran out of steam and got run over by Kansas and Lawrence. But now they're back at home, LaVell Edwards Stadium, for their Big 12 home debut. It's going to be a crazy atmosphere, 60,000 fans in Provo, the second highest elevation in terms of sea level in all of FBS football. Quick, tell me which is the highest in terms of all FBS stadiums. I'll get to it in a minute. Cincinnati traveling a hell of a long way on a short week for this game. You know, Emory Jones, everybody talked about him. What a great game he had in his debut. It came against Eastern Kentucky, for Christ's sake. So, the big game against Eastern Kentucky when he had 5 touchdowns, 345 yards. Last 2 games, the losses, 2 interceptions in both of them, and he was just average at best. And you saw how the Cincinnati pass defense was just eaten alive by Oklahoma's Dylan Gabriel last week in the loss at home, 26 for 38, 322 yards. Well, Slovis, the BYU quarterback, he threw for 357 yards and 2 touchdowns at Kansas. One thing BYU can't do, though, is run the ball. They're averaging 62 yards a game, 2.2 yards per carry, one of the worst rushing attacks in all of football. So BYU is going to have to sling it around. I think BYU is going to still be able to win this game. I think the wrong team is favored here in this contest. So I'm going to go with BYU at home against Cincinnati. And FYI, the only team that plays at a higher elevation at their home stadium in FBS is Wyoming in Laramie at, what is it? I was going to say War Memorial Stadium. I can't remember the name of the damn place. But anyway, that's the only place higher by almost 1,000 more feet above sea level. Anyway, your other game is going to be Louisville, minus the 3.5 at Raleigh, North Carolina, at Carter Finley Stadium, where NC State has only lost 6 games over the past 5 years. I say make it 7 because I've been very impressed with the way Louisville has played, especially in the offense, is getting cranking, averaging 43 points, 542 yards, 347 yards passing a game, number 9 offense. But what did you expect? You hired Jeff Brom, and he went out and got himself a quarterback and throw the ball as he imported Jack Plummer from California. And Plummer's coming off his best game last week at home, 18 for 21, 388 yards, 5 touchdowns, and a blowout of Boston College. NC State got its new quarterback from Virginia, Brennan Armstrong. Maybe the reuniting of Brennan Armstrong and his old offensive coordinator from Virginia, they got back together in Raleigh. It hasn't really clicked. Maybe it's because he doesn't have the talent around him. But he's averaging 60% completions, 215 yards a game, 5 touchdowns, but that offense really hasn't done anything. The NC State defense has played okay, but I think Louisville's to play here, and I love the Cardinals minus the 3.5 points in this spot. Yeah, the Cardinals defense is going to give up some points, but I think they've got a good enough pass rush, not as good as last year, but they've got a good enough pass rush to put some pressure on Armstrong, and I think the Cardinals are going to win this game. So of the 2 plays, equal. Louisville and BYU equal on Friday night. And as I said, on Saturday, LSU slightly more than Washington. So that'll do it. Wish you well, guys, and talk to you again on Sunday for your NFL report. Good luck, everybody.